Todd, Lily Sullivan and her younger brother Jack were last seen in May, and since then investigators say they've chased down every lead. RCMP confirmed they've spoken with 54 people, conducted polygraph tests, and have received close to 500 tips. But yet, there's still no sign of the siblings. Jack and Lily's stepfather says he was the first to volunteer for a polygraph, hopeful it would help the search and ease public speculation.
I know it would be a big help in the case and kind of narrow down maybe some of the speculations and...
The speculations. So the polygraph will narrow down speculations. Let me guess. The speculation you're referring to is the so-called speculation that you could have something to do with it. He didn't want to say narrow down on the suspects, of course, because he does not want himself to be seen as a suspect. He doesn't want people to know that he could be considered a suspect.
And just provide more evidence.
Daniel.
Just provide more evidence. The polygraph is going to provide more evidence. Let me guess. So-called evidence that he had nothing to do with it. Again, this is only about him. His focus is not on furthering the investigation, saying, I'm going to cooperate because I want to be ruled out as a suspect so the police can do their job and focus on the real leads that have absolutely nothing to do with me. No. His only focus is to be seen, not as a suspect, but as somebody who's helping now. He's being helpful.
Martel says during the polygraph test, he was asked several things, including whether or not he was involved in the disappearance of the children.
So, looking at the answer he gave this, I 100% did not reliable. It is hard for me to imagine that this dude actually passed. Maybe they told him, oh, it was good, get out of here. Maybe they said that, and he ran with it. That's possible. But I would expect the results to be at least inconclusive.
He says both his cell phone and that of his estranged wife were confiscated. And
so that is a real big one. I don't know whether Proudfoot's, I need to remember that. But it's been so long. So both of their phones were confiscated. And now there are some serious new developments. And they're bringing in people to, people like me. Because there is deception happening. I'll show you that next.
Searched by investigators. This and weeks of interviews, there still hasn't been a major break in the case. And for their stepfather, the silence inside the once busy home is deafening.
Going from a family of 7 to just me, I mean, I have nothing but time to just think.
RCMP insists this.
Yeah, and you know what? That's driving him insane because thoughts include worries. That's why he's throwing himself out there to speak and speak and speak.
This is still very much an active investigation. They're reviewing surveillance footage and following digital evidence. But the emotional toll has already left its mark on Martel, including the loss of custody of his daughter, Meadow.
And that went pretty fast, right? How soon can you lose custody? Isn't that that is pretty damn fast. And again, there must be a reason behind that.
I haven't even got to see my own kids. Not even Meadow yet.
He hasn't gotten to see his own kids. Why?
But I'm still hopeful. I have supervised visits coming up that are granted by CPS.
The children's stepfather says he's grateful to the investigators and to people who continue to share tips, even if none have yet led to finding Jack and Lilly. Until then, over a month later, the family continues to remain hopeful that the children will return home safe. Todd?
Apparently, this is one of Daniel's private messages. I ran through streams up to my waist many times. I could have slipped on a wet rock, hit my head and died, or fall on a stick or branch and get impaled and die. I did it for the kids, and the world will never see that. Holy crap. If you did it for the kids, then who cares if the world is never going to see that? You know what I'm saying? Number 160 during the day, 68 now, okay. So this is about how much they're doing to find the kids and how much he wants you to know he has been doing for the children. And analyzing Logan has put everything in a whole different light for me. As I have recently stated to you guys, it's a whole new light now because the CPS case, there's something really significant there.
To Pictou County now, where the stepfather of Lily and Jack Sullivan, the missing siblings, is speaking out about the RCMP's release yesterday about the case and questions he answered for investigators. CTV's Hafsa Arif spoke with him today, and she joins us from Westville, Nova Scotia.
Todd, Lily Sullivan and her younger brother Jack were last seen in May.
Okay,
and
that's
since
the
then,
same one, right? But
100 tips. But yet, there's phone and that of his estranged wife were
we know this statement, speculations, more evidence, okay. So they're not telling us who took the tests or what the results were. Interesting, right? They're not telling us the results of the polygraph examinations. And remember, in this interview, he also talked about his own kids. He referred to his two older kids, his own kids. That's his priority. His own children matter as well. He makes it very clear. Jack and Lily were not his own children. And I believe that if he had failed the polygraph, I don't think law enforcement would tell him for different reasons. And one being, they may look at his emotional state. They need to do their investigation by the book. And they may worry that he may do something crazy. He may hurt himself. He may hurt others. Who knows? So if he failed the polygraph, and I believe it was at best inconclusive, if he knew how to prepare for it, they wouldn't tell him. They would say, "That's everything's good, bro. Nothing to worry, man. Go out there and keep yapping, keep talking." Because remember, there's now this very new development. And this is a new one from June 11th. That is why now, all of a sudden, the polygraph examination is of interest again. And yes, the RCMP has planned this for a very long time. They are now interested in examining things a little bit further. And there was something I wanted to point out. It's kind of mind-boggling that there's not been any evidence at all. This is so Chris Proudfoot. I hate to say this. I love to make these references because my channel, for those of you who are new, for 6 months or so, Chris Proudfoot and Sebastian Rogers and Katie Proudfoot have been my priority. And they're still very much on my radar because the case has gone cold. And the similarities that I see here between Chris Watts, Katie Proudfoot, and Daniel Martel, these are great training tools for us to pay attention to and be able to see how an innocent parent acts, like Seth Rogers, and how guilty parents give themselves away. And they always do. You just need to look a little bit closer. And by the way, thank you to the one person who has sent me, made the comments. I don't even want to name you right now, but I think you know who you are. Also the question about why was the car towed away, the car of Malaya's. And some of you have suggested that Daniel kept it broken so it couldn't be driven because he didn't want her to leave. I have yet to look deeper into this. I will get to it. So please, anything that you know, and again, anonymous author identification is something that I specialize in as well. So when somebody says to me, here's a message from Daniel, and others say, don't, you need proof first. No, that's why we have anonymous author identification, because we can tell very much from the wording. He's grateful for the investigators and the people and continue to share tips. Yes, he adds, he's not worried about the tips. I think that he thinks the bodies of the children are out there in the ocean and will not be found. And every tip is welcome because they're going to be false anyway, and they keep the police busy. And Chris Proudfoot said the same thing. Go out there and give the tips, but don't look at my parents' properties. They want people to speculate. Even though they say, whatever you say about Chris Proudfoot's family, was his mom seen close to Sebastian's house that morning? In the earliest morning hours? No, that's speculation. That's the rumor. We cannot look at that. But all the other speculations that lead nowhere, they love it. They want the police to be busy with absolute nonsense. So they don't look at them. But like I say, Daniel, he may have grown up around a bunch of dumbasses who are easy to fool. So now he's a little bit lost because he uses the same patterns of lying that he probably gotten away with when he was younger or even recently. And it's also, you have to think about all of a sudden the CPS is on him, but before he never lost, they didn't remove Jack and Lilly from his home. But the question is, was there an ongoing case? And all of a sudden, it all closes in on him. It's kind of mind-boggling that there's not been any evidence at all. No, dude, there's plenty of evidence that you are deceptive. And I think that the police is not going to let go. And I think they did their due diligence and they did what they had to do to satisfy bureaucracy. And now they're at the point where they say, okay, man, let's get him. Let's get them. But he wants to continue to look good to the public. I appreciate every tip. but it kind of leaves a lot of room for the imagination of what really went on. Oh, imagination would be a great thing, right? If you're actually innocent and you need some ideas where to look next. I just want everyone to focus outward, focus on the kids. The kids are the main priority, and that'll never change. I thought you were hopeful they're going to be found. Why will it never change? Because he doesn't expect the bodies to be found. So I think there's a good chance that now they're narrowing in. They probably contact the lawyer of Malayas and they say it's time for her to sing because we are not going to let this go. But who knows? Maybe she will move to the reservation. Maybe she'll be protected. Maybe they need a lot more to get to her. Possibly, right? So let me look a little bit more at my favorite channel. So this was just sent to me from Granny's Crime Busters, and I would just watch it with you right now, and then comment on it, which I was asked to do, because I actually think it's a little more exciting if rather than me looking at a newspaper article and commenting on it, doing what I'm doing by myself here, it's maybe a little more exciting to do it if I comment on another channel doing it.
Grief. And you know there's a grieving process, right? And that kind of disrupts the whole grieving process because there's not a person to grieve. Facebook.
Oh, she has a
Nova Scotia.
Okay.
Sure you guys can see it all right. Yeah.
Let's hit it.
And there was an update today.
Yes.
When I tried this morning earlobe, the Nova Scotia RCMP's intensive approach to the missing persons investigation into the disappearance of Lilly and Jack Sullivan continues. Before I really read the rest, I do want to just say I really appreciate the fact that the RCMP gives out updates, right? I really do, because...
and just for the record, this is another Granny. Granny's Crime Busters is not Granny's Watching, the one where Chris Bradford talked. Just to make sure everybody, nobody is confused by that. Let's hear it.
We don't see that in Sebastian's case, do we? Mm-hmm. We just don't. And I really appreciate that. Even though they're putting it on their Facebook page, I don't care. I'll go to their Facebook page, I'll even subscribe, right? I'll follow whatever I got to do to make sure that I get the updates. They're giving out updates. I want to know about them, More than 11 Nova Scotia RCMP units are working on the missing persons investigation, some of which include the Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit, Pictou County District RCMP, Digital Forensic Services, Truth Verification Section. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Right? That's really interesting.
So these people have been stroking Daniel along and the public. And they're now able to say, look, we treated this case the way we treat. And I know they were deceptive from the very beginning. And I'm talking about police. And yes, whenever I examine the statements of spokespersons of companies or politicians, it's red flag after red flag, generally speaking. So it was very obvious for me to detect deception in the statements of law enforcement, because they, of course, have to be. And they cannot tell you what they know, what they really want to do. So, yes, it was, many of you have said, but why would they waste their resources on these huge, well, they have to, I think. I don't know. I think that maybe Malaya's lawyer, if they didn't do that, would be able to say, well, why did you look at the parents so quickly? What did you have? You didn't have probable cause. They have to exhaust the other avenues before they zoom in on who they think is responsible from the very beginning. So truth verification section, I like this name. Not deception detection, truth verification section. So they try to keep it positive and say, well, we just want to verify they're really telling the truth because, we're sure they're truthful. But let's make sure. It is a very politically correct way to say deception detection,
Interesting. I like that.
Me too.
Kind of like statement analysis, right?
Yes.
Legal application support team, police dog services, underwater recovery team, behavioral sciences group, and the criminal analysis service.
And again, I don't have too much hope that actually there will be a recovery of the bodies necessarily. But who knows? If they see Daniel on camera somewhere, heading towards the ocean, towards the bay, could be a different story, right?
Yes. They are joined in their investigational efforts by the National Center of Missing Persons, Canadian Center for Child Protection, and provincial and municipal police agencies from Nova Scotia and other parts of Canada. The investigation is being led by a tenacious, committed group of investigators who are gathering and assessing information daily to learn more about the circumstances of Lily and Jack's disappearance so we can find them.
Yep.
Says Senior Sergeant Rob McCammon, officer in charge, acting Major Crime and Behavioral Sciences.
Mm-hmm.
All scenarios are being considered, and we've engaged every tool and resource at our disposal. The Nova Scotia RCMP would like to thank the public for all of the tips, information, and video footage that has been provided since Lily and Jack went missing.
Yep.
With this support, investigators have collected hundreds of hours of video from the areas surrounding Lansdowne Station, including footage taken from along Gerlach Road between 12 p.m. on April 28th and 12 p.m. on May 2nd. Interesting. Which was the subject of a public appeal from the investigative team on May 28th. Hundreds of hours, guys. Remember they were asking for dash cam?
Mm-hmm.
They've collected hundreds of hours of dash cam footage. That's incredible. Formally interviewed 54 people, which has included the administration of polygraph to some of the individuals interviewed. Interesting. They're not saying who, but they are saying they did. Received 488 tips, many of which have been assessed and followed up on. Extensively searched the property from which the children went missing, including every aspect of the home, grounds, outbuildings, and nearby septic systems, wells, mine shafts, and culverts. Guys, they're being very detailed here. They're telling us exactly what they did.
Right.
We never hear that in the U.S., do we?
Not so much.
Kudos, in my opinion.
You know what? That is, in my opinion, a different approach. Where in America, it's more about the results. When they have something, they want to be able to, be the winning team, so to speak. That they say, okay, now we got something here. They don't necessarily talk about how much they did that didn't result in something. And in Canada, the approach is probably, look, we've done our job, we've done our part here. We did all this. So leave us the hell alone. Because, there is, there's more transparency in this particular area. But what do they really think here? What do they really, they're telling you, so whatever, other theory there is, we did all this and nothing happened. So let's zoom in. Now we have to zoom in. This is like sort of like a justification for what they're about to do. I think that's what they are now getting to. And again, I said it from the very beginning, this search is going to be worthless because there was one boot print at the side of the road. The dogs didn't follow into the forest. They had been removed by vehicle. And I think they had been taken far away. So if anything, they were looking for bodies, not runaways. But if they were removed by vehicle, then I said it later, the basin, somewhere by the coast where the tide is high, that's probably where you would expect the bodies not to be found, simply because they would be out in the ocean somewhere. And I don't know how you do a recovery there,
And to RCMP. Been granted numerous judicial authorizations to seize and examine materials and devices that may provide information useful to the investigation. So they actually seized some things.
Yep, their phones.
We're assessing, evaluating, and analyzing a significant volume of information from a variety of sources. We have a very coordinated and deliberate approach to make certain all information is meticulously scrutinized, prioritized, and actioned to ensure nothing is missing, says Corporal Sandy Matharo, investigation lead, Northeast Nova RCMP Major Crime Unit. We're committed to doing what is necessary to locate Lilly and Jack and advance the investigation, which may take longer than we all hoped. The information gathered thus far through the investigation, including the ground search and rescue efforts, has not identified new search areas.
Of course.
So at this time, it means that they're not going to be out there searching, guys.
I've said it before. I don't take the side of other people because they are statement analysts. Simply because the classes that are being offered are easy to graduate from, and some of them are very, very, very basic, meaning that you guys, if you have been watching my videos, already know more than many of the people who have completed their final exam successfully. So I hope that they got the right types of analysts there. And I think they do. Because RCMP would be what? The equivalent of the, not CIA, not like, something like that's a federal police force, right? The Royal, I guess when you have Royal Canadian, the term Royal is what you would call anything federal in the United States. So I'm assuming they probably got the brightest minds hired there who will have a field trip with Daniel Martel. And maybe one day he'll wake up in prison and say, oh my God, I yapped too much. But again, I say it many times, I observe it all the time. There are people who are very, very confident in their own ability to speak or their own ability to come off like the nice guy, which I think Daniel has mastered in some respect, because the gullible ones, they said, oh, he seems like such a nice guy. And I think he's covering for Malaya. He doesn't strike me like the kind who would do, well, I said it before, the nicest guys I know are also the most miserable ones in their personal relationships. They're great hanging out somewhere at a bar or at the tennis, the clubhouse of the tennis club, and telling stories, entertaining. But when you come home and meet them and their family, their kids are miserable, the wife is always angry, they are very distant at home from their family. They're very shut off sometimes and to themselves and have mood swings and all. I'm not saying Daniel is like that, but I can't help But think about people that I know that are very outgoing, and one-on-one, it's a whole different story. They are good in front of a crowd. They are very sociable, and and then you have somebody like Chris Proudfoot, who probably grew up around a bunch of other idiots like him, who is very confident because he was able to manipulate them and be intimidating with them. But all of a sudden, these people are lost when they have a larger crowd of people, including some who are smart enough to see through them. But people do what worked for them when they were younger. They continue to do that. That's the pattern they have developed, and that's the pattern that they continue with, simply because it worked before.
Anyone with information on the whereabouts of Lily and Jack is asked to call the Northeast NOVA RCMP Major Crime Unit at 902-896-5060. To remain anonymous, contact Nova Scotia Crime Stoppers toll-free at 1-800-222-TIPS. Submit a secure web tip at www.crimestoppers.ns.ca or use the P3 Tips app. There's a picture of those two.
Okay.
Somebody in comments on my post asked why the kids have things around their eyes. I don't know where these came from, guys, so I have no idea why that is on their face like that. I don't know. I didn't make these pictures, so I couldn't tell you. Let me see what we're all talking about here.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see.
Yeah, it is grieving interrupted. Crazy, chaotic going on, Noni. Yep.
Okay, so I was asked about my
That's
take.
exactly true, right, Noni?
What is my take on this? Yeah, they've been working behind the scenes, man. This was more or less for show. And they have a different approach in Canada. They are more about, look what we're doing. We are doing our job. So it is expected, actually, for somebody like, okay, let me see something here. I think I may need to go back to this one statement by Daniel Wright. They want to keep their jobs. They want to justify their jobs. They want to move up in their ranks. They are ambitious law enforcement officials. But Daniel's saying, I ran through streams I could have slipped on a wet rock, hit my head and died, or fall on a stick or branch and get impaled and die. Ooh, his imagination, man. I did it for the kids and the world will never see that. The kids are not here, bro. What are you talking about? And it's possible that in the very beginning, Daniel talked about hearing the sliding door. Or at one point.
You said they're flying in someone to do a polygraph test. Is that on you?
That's not just on me, but on everyone. That's what I asked for. I asked for that so early on, and there's not many places that do it in Canada, so they're flying somebody in.
Why do you think you need to do that? Do you think they don't believe you?
I think their side of the family doesn't believe me, and I just want to clear it up for.
Nobody believes you do it, except some gullible people who think you're a nice guy because they sort of grew up like you did, and the type of language you use, and they fall for that. But the general public does not believe you. And they never did from the very beginning. And I didn't believe you from the moment I saw your fake crying first. So there's absolutely no way. I'm not basing my analysis on this, but I'm using this as a great tool for me to zoom in on you and look for every single statement you may possibly provide, knowing there's going to be something there, expecting rather something to be there. And sure enough, you haven't disappointed me on this in this regard.
Everyone, it cleared up for everyone, not just the people online making crazy accusations.
The truth verification unit is engaged.
Yes.
There's multiple facets to those investigations, and those experts are examining every
truth verification unit. I love this term. Oh shit! And it's not like I love it. I mean, I think in Canada they're a lot more careful with their wording. They don't call it deception detection, but truth verification. As in, no, we believe, we know you're telling the truth. We just need to verify it, Just like we verified the bodies of the children are not in a forest close by your house. Now we're just moving on, we just got to move on and eliminate the possibility, and make sure that we verify that everything. Yeah, right, dude. And even with him, when he speaks, I mean, I go by my intuition all the time. And I trust my intuition more than the rules of statement analysis. However, people, I am going by the rules of statement analysis because for several reasons. First of all, I want others to learn alongside with me. And everybody has a different level of intuition. So there are some people, they don't bring a lot to my attention, but whatever they do is right on. And many times it's something that I hadn't gotten to yet. But the procedure in law enforcement is very, very important. So, otherwise you can open the door to more psychics and more, and you need to have, I guess, something to regulate a process, so to speak. Even though so far I believe when my intuition, it's not something I activate on the go or I activate on purpose. It's just when I see someone, hear someone, or see something, I immediately realize, okay, I need to look at this person in more detail. It doesn't mean I know what exactly they're lying about. I don't know exactly what the truth is. That comes later with statement analysis, where they guide me towards actually what happened. Like the water references with Daniel and Malaya. So it's even when I watch the news as a child or what have you, I know when people are lying to me. But I don't know exactly what the truth is. And that's where statement analysis kicks in very hard and fills in the blanks.
Question and answer that those individuals are providing. And it could guide the investigation.
You mentioned last time we chatted that you'd offered to do a polygraph test.
That is correct.
Has that already happened?
That has happened.
Right. And did you get results from that yet?
I do have results. And I don't know if I can share those results.
I do have results. He didn't say he got results. He takes ownership of what he considers to be his version of the results. He doesn't say, which he said, did you get results? He doesn't tell you actually that he received the results. He says, I do have them. So where did you get them? Did they actually give you results? Did they sit you down and say, look at these lines. Here's a test question. Here's a control question. And there's a lie. And this is how you, this is how a lie shows up with you. previously in a control question, and this is how the truth showed up when you told the truth about what day it is or what your name is. And look at these lines here. Look at question number 1, number 2, number blah, 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 blah. Look, it's the same like the time when you told the truth. So you have passed. Or, look, it's somewhere in the middle. It's fluctuating. It's not really as high as the lie, but it's somewhere in the middle, which can happen when, depending on the wording, when you can hold on to a part of the wording within the questions that you can respond to in a truthful manner by actually lying about the whole thing, then it can show up inconclusive. Whenever something shows up as inconclusive, there is always a certain part of this question that the person is deceptive about. Always. When you're inconclusive, you need to look at the question where your result is inconclusive. And then take the question apart and ask this question in different ways. Ask different parts of that question individually. And you will most likely see some of them will show up as truthful, the answers will show up as truthful, and others as being deceptive or having lied. And then you can zero in, and a lot of polygraphers are not skilled enough to be able to do that. So I think that the RCMP hopefully has the right types of people. And again, why would they show him the results? Why would they? Are they obligated? I don't think so. I think they're more likely going to tell him, look, bro, you did all right. Just don't worry about it, man. Keep giving your interviews, they probably say, let's let him go out there and feel confident, and then we'll watch him. We'll see.
But they were good in my favor, we'll say that.
In his favor.
It was called one of the most exhaustive investigations in Nova Scotia's history. A task force involving over a dozen specialized units, national agencies, forensic labs, behavior analysts, divers, and helicopters. Every tool, every resource, every avenue explored, and yet not a single new lead, no confirmed sightings, no persons of interest, no newly identified search zones. More than a month has passed since Lilly and Jack Sullivan vanished, and the silence is deafening. May 2nd was supposed to be just another quiet morning in the rural stretch of Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia. But instead, it became a nightmare, frozen in time. 6-year-old Lily and her 4-year-old brother Jack were reported missing from their family home. A home with no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no cries for help heard in the night. The last time they were seen was the afternoon before, May 1st.
I'm looking at the amounts of views. Oh, by the way, share my video. The amounts of views that this channel is getting lead me to believe that, I don't know, maybe people like the style. But I'm responding to it my way because, but let's see. Let's hope.
In the company of family members, then nothing. At first, the hope was simple, even comforting.
Oh, gosh.
Maybe they wandered off.
That was the next thing, was when when she was told that the baby had to leave the residence. She's exactly told she did not have to leave the residence. They just wanted the baby off the residence, from away from the residence.
Right.
That's like, this whole scenario isn't something I'm a part of. So the baby.
Why exactly was Malaya so stressed out that they felt it would impact the child.
Was going to come to my house. So she's never been apart from the baby. Never. Like she's meadow. So I said, you're more than welcome to come too. If not, I am comfortable. I have 3 kids of my own. Like Malaya, I can take care of this kid. Like I can take care of the baby, no problem. So first the baby, it was just going to be the baby. And then she decided she was going to come with me. So, but then something changed and we were at the briefing. Her mother said something to her. And then I had to take everything out of my car and put it in her mother's car. And like I said, she had this whole plan. Like she was going to drive her car into my house. Mm-hmm. And she was going to, and then the plan changed. Oh, I'm going to take the car to my mother's. Like I'm going with my mother. Well, she didn't even come back for the car. Like the search and rescue had her car towed to wherever she was because they left the car. That's how much of a hurry that was to leave.
Was it her influence that cut the cord?
But now I'm getting so many different thoughts and so many, well, there's a comment that I received. And I will look a little bit deeper into these comments, people, because was her car drivable? Somebody said something, there was a tire that was hadn't been fixed, and Daniel was in a hurry to fix it because he wanted to keep her there. And that sort of this situation was for Malaya a way of using an opportunity to get away from him. And I consider this to be a possibility. So,
did she play a role in orchestrating an exit or concealing one? No confirmation exists on whether she was present on May 1st or 2nd, but if she was, she may hold critical insight. Then there's the grandmother on Daniel's side, believed to be the last adult to see the children alive. She claimed they went to bed like any normal night.
I guess they have their own chickens so they can get eggs for free. And they probably live kind of like this rural type of life where they minimalistic, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Consistent and quietly devastating. If a polygraph was necessary, then someone's lying, one viewer noted. Another questioned, why stop searching after just 5 days? Others were even more direct. This update feels like comfort, not progress. And perhaps the sharpest sting came from those who noticed the timing. They waited until May 28th to ask for video footage.
Right.
That's not urgency, that's delay.
Yes.
These aren't conspiracy theories. These are cries from a public trying to hold on to hope while facts remain elusive. Every tip, every search, every headline has been met with anticipation, only to return again and again to silence. And yet the truth hasn't changed. There have been no arrests, no new search zones, no eyewitness accounts, just a growing void where answers should be and where trust used to live. But here's what must be said. The public is not owed comfort. They are owed clarity. And Lily and Jack, 2 innocent souls lost to silence, deserve more than vague promises and procedural reassurances. Because when children disappear, silence is not strategy.
Okay, shut up.
As weeks stretch into months, the RCMP's silence on critical findings, especially regarding...
I think I'm pretty much done with True Crime Stories Hour. What do you think? Well, I'm going to continue to scan through them for statements because they're kind of on it, but they're also kind of out of it. You know what I mean? So mike@firetown.com is my email address. please send to me, or iamfiretown@gmail.com. Let's use that one. See, now you got two. Please send me whatever strikes you as strange. Because I want to look at these things. I want to be able to examine more and more and more. Especially what hits your intuition hard. So I don't care what anybody else is doing. And as a matter of fact, it has only been 99% detrimental to my analysis to listen to others. Except when there is a small outtake, something very specific. Because I can control what people pay attention to. The only thing I can control is what types of comments people are able to read on my channel. And thanks to Julia and Krista, this has been really, really good. And I have not seen another channel other than Sweetie Pylos where the commenting is so on it. And more than anything, I want to create a safe haven where people can actually hear themselves think and don't get sidetracked by complete nonsense, especially when it comes to the Sebastian Rogers case, which I will continue with. And I don't care if the Summer Wells case all of a sudden done Wells. I don't know what he knows, but I will look at these things as well and not listen to what other people say about it, because I honestly don't care, because every single time I do, it's just speculation after speculation, and they have 3-4 hour lives where you have 90% complete garbage, and I refuse to sift through that. So AI is not equipped for statement analysis. I'm sorry, they are very no, eventually it'll be better, but I believe the one thing that we always have on our side is intuition. AI does not have any intuition. And I love to surround myself surround myself with intuitive people who trust in their own intuition and who are free to express it and say, listen, here's something that struck me as strange, and I would like for you to look at it. And they don't worry about, but maybe people think that I'm a conspiracy theorist, or maybe they think that I think this. No, you need to free yourself from that. If you don't, and my classes will not just be about being a statement analyst, but being the best, among the best, because statement analysis was actually created by an Israeli guy who I think is now a professor in Arizona, and everybody has kind of copied from him. Where some people have taken it up a notch. Peter Hyatt did a great job in the beginning to bring it to the public and explain it very, very, very well. But the plate system is my own: priorities, leakage, avoidances, intention, deception, and sensitivities, which is what we check for. So a lot of people reference statement analysis and use it very loosely and just on the surface. And of course, this true crime stories hour is a great example of how you touch up on it a little bit. But I've said it before. The best thing for me was when I went into Logan's interview for the second time, because that's when you get really deep into it. And that's when you understand what they're actually telling us.
Todd, Lily Sullivan and her younger brother Jack were last seen in May, and since then, investigators say they've chased down every lead. RCMP confirmed they've spoken with 54 people, conducted polygraph tests, and have received close to 500 tips.
They have spoken to 54 people. Okay, how many people were polygraphed? That's what I would be interested in. Who were those people? And why did they polygraph these people? Let's make sure I heard this correctly.
Polygraph tests and have received close to 500 tips. But yet, there's still no sign of the siblings. Jack and Lilly's stepfather says he was the first to volunteer for a polygraph, hopeful it would help the search and ease public speculation.
I know it would be a big help in the case, and
I know it would be a big help in the case. Are you not going to express any concern for Jack and Lilly ever?
kind of narrow down maybe some of the speculations and
narrow down some of the speculations. He's afraid of speculations. When your children are missing, you welcome speculations. And you may not call it speculations. Maybe ideas, maybe thoughts, maybe speculations. But you welcome them. If no search has resulted in anything, the question is, where are they? I have a speculation for you, Daniel. I speculate that you went out to the coast that night before the sun came up. And I speculate that you are feeling pretty safe about the bodies not being found. And I also speculate that maybe you can be seen on camera somewhere. Not necessarily where you live, because maybe you know the cameras, maybe you know the back roads, maybe you grew up there, right? Maybe you remember when your neighbor started installing cameras to observe wildlife or what have you, and maybe you know exactly where to go, which way to drive, and how to avoid these cameras. But what about the toll booth? What about out there on the freeway? And again, maybe the police in Canada are very, very restricted to where they need to prove that they first took every step in the local area before they can go out there and ask people to give them camera footage from far away. I think that might be the case because things are a little bit more regulated there, or more controlled, if you want to say it in a negative manner. That they now, after maybe 2 or 3 weeks, will give a hint at what the polygraph results may have been. And then they will say, well, if anybody still has 2 months old footage that hasn't been, we're a little bit late one more time. Yeah, I think this is why I don't think that they are more European style in this regard, man, where they just need to be so careful with how they proceed that maybe they are overlooking some important aspects here. And yeah, I think I may be right about this one. So if you're in the US, for us who are in the US, we need to sort of think about that there's a different procedure, a different system happening. And unfortunately, bureaucracy, no matter where you go, can hinder a real investigation, which is why I love doing what I do. I bypass all of this nonsense. And when it comes down to it, if your intuition doesn't kick in, the statements are 100% to me. 100%. They tell us their priorities: leakage, avoidances, intention, deception, sensitivity. PLAIDS by Mike DeMann. Plates, the plate system. Apply the plate system every single time, and you will get a strong idea of whom you need to look at. And the plate system is not about detecting deception or going for that necessarily. It also detects the truth. It helps us eliminate people, which is why in the very beginning A lot of people ask me, why do you always examine Chris Proudfoot, man? Why always go after him? What about Seth? Seth is no angel. Well, I didn't say he's an angel. I'm not saying that I'm telling you one thing though. There is no red flag in Seth's statements regarding the disappearance of his son. So it helped me not waste my time on Seth Rogers. And I still don't understand why people are getting into arguments with people who claim otherwise. I already know he's innocent. I know Seth Rogers had nothing to do with the disappearance of Sebastian. PLAIDS, priorities, leakage, avoidances, intention, deception, and sensitivities. You will be able to recognize whose statements you need more of. And in my case, Daniel's are the statements I need more and more and more of. Of course, Malaya is the other one, equally important, which is why I love these private messages from Malaya, and I will get back into them a little bit more. But she told us the kids wore no coats. It was 5 Celsius, 40 Fahrenheit. And you mean the kids went out there to play in the yard? I don't think they left the house. I know they didn't leave the house. I know whatever happened in that room that suddenly went quiet. But what exactly happened? And we need to know more about if there's a history with CPS. Because a lot of what Logan, you see avoidances, number 3 in the plate system. Logan avoids anything to do with the CPS. She yaps and yaps and yaps about other things. Meadow. Right. She claims her father cried. No, she says her father told her that he cried. And then she said he cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. The last time you cried, if you're a male watching me, did you tell everybody about it? Did you feel a need? Did you feel a need to tell people you cried? No. I bet you Daniel does feel the need to say that he cried for the kids, not only to talk about it, maybe to people who accuse him of something, or let him realize that he's a suspect, allegedly. When you cry, you just cry. Seth Rogers doesn't say, I cry and I cry and I cry. He said, this is not about me. This is about my son. You don't promote your crying. Logan has told us so much. And when they avoid a certain subject matter, that's when you know we need to get in there. There is much more.
And just provide more evidence.
Daniel.
Provide more evidence with a polygraph examination? You already told us there's no evidence at all, right? He's not afraid of evidence because there isn't any. He's gotten rid of that evidence. He is confident that there is no evidence at all. He welcomes it. He welcomes tips because he knows there is no worry for him. What he's scared of are the speculations. Anything outside of the box. That's what he's scared of. When people say, okay, we've been on a wrong track, let's look a little bit closer at Daniel. That's what he doesn't want.
Daniel Martel says during the polygraph test, he was asked several things, including whether or not he was involved in the disappearance of the children. He said,
and again, the answer he gave when he was asked by a reporter was not a reliable denial. And that is to be flagged. Because a simple no is what I would have said if I didn't do anything, if I wasn't involved. I would say no. And I wouldn't explain that it's a clear no or an absolute no, or that I would never do anything to the children. No, I wouldn't feel the need to. I would say no. I had nothing to do with this. A follow-up question should be, do you know anything? What do you know? Do you know who? Do you suspect somebody? Do you have a suspicion? And then let me hear it. Let me hear you say exactly what you think. I want somebody to ask if you have access, and I know some important people, so-called important people, are watching me. Ask him directly, do you think Malaya had something to do with it? And I want to hear the answer. I want to read the answer out loud, and I will put it on my whiteboard, and I will dissect it.
Says both his cell phone and that of his estranged wife were confiscated and searched by investigators.
She wasn't his wife, right? Or common law wife or what. Listen, the media is so full of it, man. And they even start some of the reports claiming the children wandered off. I mean, this is what controlled media does. And I hate to say it, but I prefer the system in the United States where the media doesn't have to tiptoe so much. You know, I hate to say it, but I prefer when you can choose between different types of reportings and pick a channel that goes by, you know, when you have Court TV, for example. I don't think they would say, and I don't know if Court TV actually covered this case yet. I have to look for that. Again, anything you have that you think is significant, I am welcoming. So, when I don't think that Court TV would do that and say, these children wandered off. They would be more careful with that. They're very careful in certain regards. And then well, anyways, let's hear the rest and then
Investigators. This and weeks of interviews, there still hasn't been a major break in the case. And for their stepfather, the silence inside the once.
But you see, as statement analysts, we don't care about the major break or not. We already know where to look.
Busy home is deafening.
Going from a family of 7 to just me, I mean.
Why is it going to just you? Are you the victim now? Daniel continues to worry, but only about himself. A family of 7. By the way, did your 2 older kids live with you actually? How often did you see them? And why are you not seeing them right now? Are you not allowed to see them? Again, CPS is, okay, just me. It's just you. Okay, I understand. I understand. But maybe you need this time to look at yourself. But he is the victim. Why? Did you do something? Which is why you need supervised visits right now? You cannot see Meadow by yourself? But they may also be scared he's going to abduct her or take her, but that's not likely in this, or he do something crazy. I think they probably worry that he may be unstable because of how he rambled about Malaya and everything, that he may snap. So I would also worry, you know what I mean? But I still want to know what history was there. What history was there with the CP? What exactly was Logan avoiding to tell us? Oh, I forgot. It's just you because your 2 children are missing. Okay, they're not your own children, right? I got it. But you include them in the 7. So that's -7 -2 right there. Where is the worry about these kids? Again, only about Daniel.
I have nothing but time.
I have nothing. That's true. You went down to 0. But why? What did you do? That's what I'm interested in. Not the situation you find yourself in, but how you have gotten in the situation and what your responsibilities are.
Just think.
RCMP insists this is still very much an active investigation. They're reviewing surveillance footage and following digital evidence, but the emotional toll has already left its mark on Martel, including the loss of custody of his daughter Meadow.
I haven't even got to see my own kids.
I haven't even got to see my own kids. They were not his children, they were Malaya's children. This is another way of him shifting responsibility towards her. He did so much for them, but she didn't. He had to be strict with them because Malaya failed. And remember, he said they were wild with her. Now remember Oren and Orson West, the two toddlers who disappeared. I believe it was already in Bakersfield before they moved to their new residence, where these children were never seen when they claimed that they went out the back gate. And he talked about these two boys as being rambunctious. These two missing children who must have been cold, hungry, scared, out there in the wilderness somewhere, if you were to have believed him, right? He referred to the missing children as rambunctious because that's his way of telling us why happened what happened. Whenever you speak negatively about a missing child, you are telling us why, in your opinion, these children have gone missing. Remember when I said that about Sebastian, because Chris Proudfoot also referred to Sebastian as rambunctious. And he told you exactly why, in his opinion, Sebastian wound up missing or had to go. Allegedly. Everybody's innocent until proven guilty in the court of law. Everything I say is my opinion and my opinion only. Okay. When they tell you anything negative, they will talk your ear off. Remember Malaya saying that. What happened that night when she was on the phone and Lily kept coming into their room? When Daniel says to us they were wild with her, that's a negative, and he's using that as an excuse why he had to do what he had to do with them to keep them in line. And they were well behaved with him. Why? How did you get these wild children to be well behaved? And why is the CPS restricting you right now? What did Malaya tell them? They were wild and they talked your ear off. And Malaya was playing on her phone. And next thing we knew, the room was quiet. What did you do? What happened? That's where we want to go with this. You're saying nothing about Lily and Jack, who are in need. Your children are safe, right? They're at home with who? With their mom? But he is his own kids. Now with all that focus on these other children, no, Lily and Jack don't matter. I haven't even got to see my own kids. Forget about Jack and Lily. I haven't got to see even. That's priority. Before we talk about Jack and Lily, let's focus on my kids. That's what's important to me. Are Jack and Lily important? No. He doesn't mention them.
Not even Meadow yet.
not even matter yet. This isn't about your own children. This is about Jack and Lilly only. And you can go through the legal channel if there are accusations that you think are wrong. But what exactly are the accusations? And why can't you get certain decisions to be reversed?
But I'm still hopeful. I have supervised visits coming up that are granted by CPS.
Hopeful to see your children, right? Supervised visits. Why do you need to be supervised, Daniel? You see, he's using this to portray himself as a victim, but he won't get into the details. So I don't know. I cannot verify certain comments. So I put them just out there, and I removed the name of the person simply because I have had people change their minds before about wanting to be on my channel or wanting to have their names mentioned. So the comments are still up there on some of the videos of my channel. So that person has a power to remove their own comments if they wish. Again, I'm doing that because I one time uploaded an edited version of a video I'd already posted. Because sometimes people change their minds and they say, I don't want my name to be out there. That is why I am removing the name of the person. And the comment was, Daniel kept that girl stranded with her tire and rear of the car. So the ambulance was her escape. She was hostage along with the kids. Okay, Mike the Man, that's the way I read the case, this case. So there is a suggestion that the reason she had her car towed because it wasn't drivable. I don't know if that's the case. But yeah, I'm looking at this also because there was something very strange about Logan putting so much focus on her getting the car towed. Why didn't she come back herself to remove the car? Was it drivable or wasn't it? Was Daniel hoping to be able to talk to Malaya again because her car was there? And the fact that she had it towed instead was a huge blow to him because he lost the ability to speak to her, to get through to her. And is this due to possibly the fact, how you say that, due to the possibility that maybe in the past Malaya wanted to leave him and he always had a way to sort of convince her to stay. There were issues, according to Logan's own statements, in my opinion. There were huge issues in the house. He wants her to think about the Daniel that she first met, not the Daniel he became. The same person stated, well, I've already told his brother messaged me about the whole family being there on Tuesday. But who is the whole family? Well, that car was the wheel off of Malaya car. So he, Daniel, kept her as a hostage from her mother and family. I don't know. So yes, Daniel, I believe, is responsible for neglected those babies. Okay. And another comment is, Daniel, what was the fight about in the front yard? Where are the kids now and whomever was fighting in the front yard? I think Logan told us. Now 2 kids are missing. Daniel doesn't sound right, okay? And Daniel, how come you as a man left the mother stranded, Daniel? No, So again, I cannot verify this, and for all I know, well, let's dismiss it for now. However, there is something about that car. Possibly, because Logan seemed to have focused on it. And the hope was probably that Daniel could mend things between him and Malaya. And all of a sudden he has lost control completely over her. Any type of control he may have had in the past. She's completely protected. And she's shutting herself out. And you can't get to her at all. And, that is probably a big difference to how things were previously, where she was in his house or trailer, whatever you want to call it. And maybe she felt sort of stuck. Maybe she wanted to leave. Maybe she was unhappy. But also she was unhappy, apparently with the mother, according to him and Logan. But that doesn't mean she was happy in the house with him. And now all of a sudden she feels empowered and just, no, I'm not going to talk to this guy. She doesn't have a desire to reach him at all. And there's only so much control her mother could have over her. If she really, really wanted to be in touch with him, she'd find a way. She's able to go to her Facebook, right? She was able to change her settings to single. She could have shot him a message. I cannot talk right now, baby. Things are very, whatever you want to say. She could have shot him a message. But it seems like she chooses complete silence and wants nothing to do with him. He seems to be a little bit in denial here too. There's multiple facets to these investigations, and those experts are examining every question and answer that those individuals are providing, and that could guide the investigation. A truth verification unit. So that is the one that Daniel should be very worried about. Police have not said how many tests were administered, who took the tests, and what the results were. You see, they don't even want to confirm that Daniel took a test. He says, you don't do polygraph tests and waste that resource on people that maybe just saw something or heard something or is a real remote suspect. That's not the way it works. And I agree. If you're doing polygraph tests and examinations on people, those are people they suspect might be involved in some way or for whatever reason aren't being honest. Both applies to Daniel. I've talked about this before. Of what really went on. It's kind of mind-boggling that there's not been any evidence at all. I appreciate every tip. Yes, including the ones that go nowhere, especially, right? But it kind of leaves a lot of room to the imagination of what really went on. What really went on. And he knows what really went on. He emphasizes on that. He is worried about the imagination, but let's use a different word. The possibilities of what really went on. Meaning, people get too close in terms of what really went on. He appreciates every tip, right? But, no. The but refers to the term every. So it would be more appropriate for him to say, I appreciate most of the tips, but he doesn't want to say that. He doesn't want to be put in the position where he needs to qualify something. but it kind of leaves a lot of room. There is a lot of room. So that could be a reference to the room that next thing we knew, the room was quiet, and it can also be a lot of room in the ocean, wherever the bodies may have been taken. The imagination of what really went on. He is afraid that some of these tips will get too close to what really actually took place. He is now afraid of people who think outside of the box. He's telling us there's no evidence, everything's been searched, go home, show us over, it's a mystery. And I said it before, I hate the term mystery. Never let anything become a mystery. There's no such thing as a mystery. I don't care if it's John Benet Ramsey, Somerville's, I don't care what it is. There's no... Let's go, Tracker. Thank you. I love your comments. Very much. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody in chat. Julia, Krista, thank you so much. Without you, I wouldn't have this live. I wouldn't have this live chat. It kind of leaves a lot of room to the imagination of what really went on. So you can say it enables people to just go out there and give false tips or imagine things and waste everybody's time, but that's not what he's saying. He's saying he's worried about people getting too close to what really went on. He doesn't want you to get too close to that. And this exactly is his fear. So he doesn't appreciate every tip. The false tips he appreciates, but not the ones that make the most sense and may get police to focus on where they need to focus. However, I think that with the latest developments, their focus has been a very different one than what they have let the public know. So that's now why he's scared. I just want everyone to focus outward. Outward. Yes, don't focus on him. And of course, it can also be leakage, because experiential memory always keeps sifting in. Out there in the ocean, maybe. I don't know. What do you think? Focus on the kids. Yeah, why don't you focus on the kids? Don't tell people, our focus is only on the children. You talk about everything else. You talk about you. We don't care you could have impaled yourself and you risked your life, supposedly for the children. We don't give a crap about that. It's better children are priority. What about their lives? No concern. The kids are the main priority. No, they're the only priority, you idiot. What else? When you say this is the main priority, okay. First of all, it's not your main priority. It's not any priority at all, because you would have mentioned them more and more. You would mention them in every single interview. But when you say the main priority, I would say, what are your top priorities? List them all. He would probably say, okay, Jack and Lilly. Okay, good. And then spend maybe half a second on them. Maybe write it down. Maybe if you gave him a piece of paper and say, please write down the top 5 priorities for you. That would also be a very, very good question to have that in writing. Yes, he probably would put Jack and Lilly up there because he has to, right? His mind would kick in and be like, okay, I guess I have to do that. And then I bet you it would be a very short first sentence. 1, Jack and Lilly. Maybe find Jack and Lilly. Over. And I can guarantee you that more than 90% of the words would be around other priorities. Well, number 2, don't look at the wrong people, don't look at innocent children, don't waste your time on us because we had nothing. And he would probably go, it's always a percentage game. You have to look at what do people spend most of their time on when you want to assess the priorities in the PLAIDS system. PLAIDS. Priorities is the first one. What are your priorities? And Jack and Lilly are not, but they're expected to. And here we have priority, the main priority. I bet you number 2, 3, 4, or maybe only say 2, say 3. Keep it at 3. What are your top 3 priorities? I bet you there 90% of the words would be for number 2 and 3. He would keep it very short about Jack and Lilly. Because if he's innocent, he will be so busy writing about number 1 and say, we need to think about what they could have done. We need to think about who could have picked them up. We need to talk to the potential abductors in the media, which he has never done. We should call out to them. We should look at offenders in the area. How about that one? Or offenders within a certain radius. Are there any What do you do these days? You use words like rugs and grape and all of these placeholders for terms we can no longer say. Should we say ex-offenders or S-offenders, or how do you? I cannot handle this politically correct word, man. Offenders. What about offenders in the area? Has he talked about that? In what radius? I mean, it's not a lot of people living there, but 10-mile, 20-mile radius, anywhere. No, there's no concern about that. That's where his speculation should be going. Not saying I have no idea why somebody could have picked up these children. That's what he said before. There are reasons why people pick up children. They're not reasons to me. They're not reasons to you. They're not reasons to normal people. But a motive doesn't require for us to be able to relate to it, for it to be a motive for somebody else. And we hear about children being kidnapped all the time, about trafficking. We hear about this thing. But there's no concern on his part about that possibility. And I've read that there's a very low percentage in Canada, supposedly. No, I mean, it's maybe in Canada it's not that frequent, but it's a possibility. And I don't care if you live in Canada and that's not on your radar maybe as much as in other parts of the world. You hear about it all of the time. There's a possibility. People do that. They are not the priority. This is very similar to Malaya saying last night was one of the worst nights. No, the first night without your children after they went missing would be the worst night ever. And that showed me that the night before it happened, something happened, and that particular night was the worst night.
If this is not a criminal investigation now, I'd be totally surprised.
It's been almost 6 weeks since Lilly and Jack Sullivan were first reported missing from their home in Lansdowne Station. On Wednesday, the RCMP in Nova Scotia said many RCMP units, including Major Crime, are involved in the investigation, along with the National Center for Missing Persons. Police say they formally interviewed 54 people in their search. And this former Halifax regional police officer doesn't take that lightly.
They're out there, and the only way they're going to see or get results in this is to be out there talking to people, looking at videos, looking at topography and what have you, and so on. They're not in offices doing this by a laptop. Let's put it that way.
In an update this week, the RCMP say they've collected hundreds of hours of video from areas surrounding Lansdowne Station between April 28th and May 2nd. when the kids went missing and have received nearly 500 tips from the public. Police say they've searched every aspect of the family's home.
So again, people. But again, have cadaver dogs been in the house? It's another question. So that's another question, right?
Home and received authorization to seize and examine devices.
They'll go on the balance of probabilities based on the area that we fully searched with a lot of people. We can't find any evidence, be it a backpack, a shoe, or whatever. We can't find the kids. If you can't find them, that somebody has to say enough is enough right now for searching those areas. Mm-hmm. So now we move to where? There's only one other option. A nefarious take to this. In other words, a criminal type thing. That's only my personal opinion.
Police say they've used polygraph tests in some interviews. This former polygraph examiner south of the border says the test is used to monitor how a person's nervous system responds to certain questions.
We know
if somebody is successful in the test, then not that they're being eliminated, but they'll spend more time on people that are not successful. Not passing the test doesn't mean you're guilty or you're involved. It simply means that there's some issue there, maybe some knowledge, guilty knowledge.
Moriello says he's seen people pass tests who were later proven guilty. More than 160 search and rescue volunteers have scoured through the densely wooded area surrounding the children's home, but only a small boot print was found. Police continue to refer to the case as a missing persons investigation.
They're covering it all, everything they can. And you only do that in depth when there's a criminal investigation.
I feel so happy that I'm getting my little Lily back.
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP.
This is somebody who's really crying and not pushing for tears. Actually composing herself. And probably fearing the worst.
I feel so happy that I'm getting my little Lily back.
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, has released an update on missing children Lily Sullivan and Jack Sullivan in Nova Scotia.
Yeah.
It's not a voluntary trek into the woods. You only have one other option if there's no abduction. That option is a criminal investigation.
What we learned about the mother of Lily and Jack Sullivan in June 2025 has turned this entire case upside down. Information that was hidden from the public has finally come to light and revealed the true face of Malhia Brooks Murray. A woman who should have been devastated by grief instead methodically destroyed all connections to her missing children. A woman who should have been begging for help chose complete silence. A woman who should have stayed near the scene of the disappearance fled.
So to end this, I want to talk about embedded confessions, and a prime example is O.J. Simpson.
The chapter 6 is called The Night in Question. And you write in the book, now picture this and keep in mind that this is purely hypothetical. Yes. Why don't you tell me what might have happened on the night of June 12th, 1994? And let's just walk through the night.
Well, first of all, this is very difficult for me to do this. It was very difficult for me because it's hypothetical.
Yeah, and when people try to explain to you it's hypothetical again, it indicates it's not hypothetical at all, because she already mentioned it. But I can tell you something. This is now experiential memory kicking in.
I know and I accept the fact that people are going to feel whatever way they're going to feel. They're going to, whatever they want to feel. In the book, the hypothetical is...
Charlie.
Charlie. This guy Charlie shows up.
I don't know how she can keep a straight face here. But if you had nothing to do with something and a serious allegation comes your way, you cannot help. You don't allow your mind to go there. You don't say, if I did it. The moment you say, if I did it, you already are, allowing your mind to go there. That means you did it.
The guy who I recently become friends with, and I don't know why you'd been by Nicole's house, but it told me you wouldn't believe what's going on over there.
Actually, let me now end this. This is not going to look good for Daniel, what's been happening now. And I'm sure as time goes by and he realizes more and more that Malaya is not going to return to him, the anger will build up. On the one hand, he doesn't want her to be in a condition where it affects his daughter. However, he doesn't want to go down for this by himself. And this will create a major conflict within him. Because I don't think, he worries about Meadow. And I think it's true that she is very focused on her daughter Meadow. And he probably wants her to be the one raising Meadow. So it'll be interesting for us to see later on if he will implicate her when things narrow in on him. They are referring to interviews that took place since May 2nd, which includes a 4-hour interrogation of Daniels. I would love to get my hands on that interrogation, on the transcript. And I'm pretty sure if I was able to, I would see a lot more water references and probably be able to pinpoint a location where the children were taken and exactly what happened in that particular room. And Malaya, she was also questioned, right? So they have a lot to work with. And they're finally going to get to it. And forensic linguistics are probably a last resort, simply because people love physical evidence. It works much better in a court of law. But I expect things to close in on him, and I don't really know how to close this video because I don't have more. We are waiting to hear more about this. So I thank you all for watching. Share my video. Let people know that we need to stay on the right track. So this is from Dali Vision. So I didn't choose this music.
There's some sadness and just
if you can call it that.
turn to anger because there's no evidence at all as of after.
There's no evidence at all as of after 1 month. As of, he pauses. I think he was going to say as of today. So here again is a statement from Daniel. Malaya put Lily and Jack on the back burner when Meadow was born. I taught Lily and Jack everything from potty training, getting loosers from their mouth. I don't know what it means. I did everything for them. Lily and Jack called me dad. So the reason he is trying so hard to paint their relationship as good, why is he doing that? And came for me for everything, never Malaya. She had no control over the kids. They were wild as me. And with me listened and were well behaved. So, it's like Katie Proudfoot telling us how much sugar Sebastian had to excuse, in my opinion, over medicating him with sleep aid. Malaya didn't do her part. I had to do what I had to do to keep them in line. That's what this is telling me. So I thank you all, and please bring to my attention if I don't get to it on my own. If there are any new developments, I will immediately get to them, and I see you next time.